truly great drama? You know, the kind that just pins you to your seat? Well, it turns out that a 400-year-old play might just hold the secret recipe. Today, we're going to deconstruct a masterclass in suspense that is just as powerful now as it was 4 centuries ago.
And that brings us to the big question. Forget about special effects. Forget about massive, epic action sequences. How does arguably the greatest playwright of all time create an absolutely unforgettable, high-stakes scene with, well, just two guys arguing inside a military tent? To find the answer, we're going to dive deep into one specific scene, the legendary quarrel scene from Julius Caesar. Now, this scene is famous not for its action, but for the sheer number of emotional layers that Shakespeare manages to pack into a single argument. It's incredible. So, to figure out how he pulls this off, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. We'll start with the foundation, raw human conflict. Then we'll see how he layers on this heartbreaking sense of pathos and even a ghostly twist. And then, at the end, we're going to put it all together to reveal the formula for genius.
All right, let's get into it. The entire scene is it's a masterclass in building tension, and the main idea here is that the audience is never, ever allowed to get comfortable. You never get a chance to relax. Shakespeare does this by layering 3 totally different kinds of dramatic pressure right on top of each other.
So he basically creates this little 3-act play inside of one scene. It kicks off with a raw, bitter fight between 2 old friends. Then, right when you think that's over, he hits you with this absolutely heartbreaking personal tragedy. And if that wasn't enough, he finishes the whole thing off with a terrifying ghostly apparition. It is a relentless emotional roller coaster.
So where does all this start? Well, the engine of the scene, the first ingredient, is just pure, raw human conflict. It's this nasty argument between 2 allies, Brutus and Cassius, and it provides the initial spark for the whole dramatic fire.
And what's so brilliant is that Shakespeare doesn't waste a second with a slow build-up. Nope, he throws us right in media res. That's a fancy Latin term for into the middle of things. By starting the scene mid-argument, he creates this immediate sense of tension and just drops the audience right into the thick of it.
And the insults start flying immediately. Brutus accuses Cassius of having an itching palm, which is basically a 400-year-old way of saying he's corrupt, that he's been taking bribes. Now, for a proud Roman general like Cassius hearing this from his friend, that is a massive insult. So naturally, things escalate, and they escalate fast. Cassius, who's way more hot-headed, is just furious. He pretty much tells Brutus, "Back off, or I'm going to do something we both regret." It's a direct threat, and the tension just skyrockets.
But here's what's really going on. This isn't just about money. It is a fundamental clash of personalities. You have Cassius, who is all fire and emotion, probably gesturing like crazy, his hand on his sword. And then you have Brutus, who's the complete opposite. He's cold, he's stoic, and totally unimpressed. He just dismisses his friend with a wave and says, "Away, slight man." These deep-seated differences are the real fuel for this fire.
Okay, so just as the argument hits its peak and then starts to cool down, you think, phew, okay, we can finally catch our breath. But no, that is exactly when Shakespeare shifts gears and hits you with a completely different and honestly, a far more devastating kind of emotional weight.
He uses a powerful tool called pathos. Now, pathos is a quality in art that's designed to make you, the audience, feel pity or sympathy or just deep, deep sadness. And trust me, Shakespeare's about to use it like a sledgehammer.
Right after they sort of make up, Brutus admits why he's been so ill-tempered. And it's not really about Cassius at all. He reveals that his wife, Portia, is dead. She has taken her own life. And this revelation is just a total shock that completely reframes everything we just watched.
And the way he says it, it's just devastating. There's no poetry, no fancy language. It's just a blunt, 3-word bomb. Portia is dead.
Cassius can't believe it, and when he questions him, Brutus just repeats the horrifying fact. That stark, brutal repetition makes the moment unbelievably powerful. It just grabs you with this raw sense of pain and shock.
So, we've had a bitter fight, we've had a heartbreaking tragedy. I mean, what more could possibly happen in one tent? Well, Shakespeare is not done. He adds one final chilling layer, pushing the tension from the personal straight into the supernatural. Or to put it simply, and then things get weird. Right when Brutus is left alone in the quiet of his tent, the whole atmosphere changes. Out of the shadows, a monstrous apparition suddenly appears. Brutus himself says the sight makes his blood cold and his hair stand on end. So all of this personal and political drama has just been invaded by something otherworldly and terrifying. And you can just picture it here. It is the ghost of the man he murdered, Julius Caesar. When Brutus manages to ask what it is, the ghost gives this chilling reply: "Thy evil spirit, Brutus." His past has quite literally come back to haunt him.
The ghost's message is short, and it is deeply ominous. It warns Brutus, "Thou shalt see me at Philippi." Now, Philippi is the battlefield where Brutus and Cassius are about to face their enemies. This isn't just a friendly visit, it's a dark prophecy of doom.
And here is the final stroke of genius. Shakespeare leaves it completely ambiguous. Brutus wakes up his soldiers, but none of them saw a thing. So, was the ghost actually real? Or was it just a figment of Brutus's exhausted and guilty mind? We, the audience, are left to wonder, and that adds this final psychological layer of tension.
Okay, so let's put it all together. We've seen all these different ingredients Shakespeare is using, but how do they combine to create this absolute masterpiece of sustained tension? Well, it boils down to this incredibly effective three-step formula. First, you start with something everyone can relate to: raw human conflict. Then, once you've got that going, you pivot to heartbreaking pathos to really raise the emotional stakes. And finally, you top it all off with a supernatural or psychological element to create this deep sense of dread.
And that leaves us with a final thought. This formula, conflict, then pathos, then dread, is just so powerful. So now that you see the blueprint, think about it. The next time you're watching a movie or binging a new show, keep an eye out. Where else have you seen this exact formula at work? Because once you start looking for it, you will see it everywhere.